Approaches to conservation. A framework for effective conservation includes awareness through education. Examples include the General Wildlife Federation was established to educate American public about American wildlife and natural resources. Foundations and organizations include a few: Natural Conservancy, Conservation International, and the World Wildlife Fund are just a few examples. As early as the 1800s, bills and legislations began being passed in a way of preserving wildlife and habitats. Implementing conservation includes preserving existing habitats, rebuilding habitats, protecting wildlife, and preventing the future destruction of wildlife and habitats. Getting involved through advocacy, financial and political support, volunteering, and everyday changes in order to approach conservation. Some key examples in history of conservation include: in 1849, the U.S. Department of Interior is established. It is the management of public parklands. It is now the nation's main conservation agency. Several others include a bill in 1864 was passed by Congress and signed by President Lincoln that created the first national park. In 1968, the National Wild and Scenic River Act is established, a system for protecting pristine, free-flowing rivers from development. Here are a few more examples, the newest being in 2012, a new app is available which allows users to instantly access information on the health of thousands of lakes, rivers, streams across the United States from their smartphone. At the bottom of the page, you'll see a link where you can find more important things throughout history about conservation. Approaches to conservation, what has changed over the years. Organizations, nonprofit organizations are one of them. Many local, national, and global nonprofit institutions exist today. In 1961, there was a limited amount of organizations around the world. That is when the World Organization was created to help organize the nation as a whole. Government has a big play. The objective of conservation and requirements by the government is to maintain the essential ecological process and life support systems, prevent preservation of genetic diversity, sustainable utilizations of species and ecosystems, and priorities for national acts. At the bottom you'll see a quote. We want those who come after us to inherit a world where the wild is still alive. Approaches to conservation, future challenges. Substantial ecotourism. Substantial tourism is attempting to make a low impact on environment and local culture as possible, while helping to generate future employment for local people. The aim of sustainable tourism is to ensure that development brings a positive experience to local people, tourism companies, and tourists themselves. Sustainable tourism is an adopted practice in successful ecotourism. Basically, sustaining ecotourism is maintaining what we have, strive so hard to protect through conservation while still letting everybody enjoy the beauty of the nature. It also helps in the way where it sustains local rural communities by providing them with money and funds to future grow. There are a couple different programs involved that kind of link ecotourism, where they regulate and see who can and do that. One of these is called the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. Their mission statement is promoting the widespread adoption of global sustainable tourism standards to ensure the tourism industry continues to drive conservation and poverty alleviation. They serve as an international body for fostering increased knowledge and understanding of sustainable tourist practice, promoting the adoption of universal sustainable tourism. Basically, they are a foundation to help make sure that all of this we can still enjoy it, but we can still preserve it. We also integrating biodiversity and conservation, both public and private sectors, while still encouraging economists and conservationists to work together. Politically and all that, everybody kind of needs to be on the same page, where we all strive to work together in one instance to provide the best outcome that preserves the wildlife, yet still sustains the people. ongoing battles, some challenges. There's an ever-growing population which will always affect wildlife and land. The more people there are, the more land that we use and the more impact we have on animals. A lot of these challenges can be addressed through technology, advances, awareness, all those to prevent the destruction of our habitats. Success through conservation. I do have a quote here. I recognize the right and duty of the generation to develop and use the natural resources of our land, but I do not recognize the right to waste them or to rob them. By wasteful use, the generations that come after us. Theodore Roosevelt, who was also coined as the president of conservation, he did the most work in the United States for protecting a lot of wildlife and land. Other success stories through conservation include the reintroduction of many species into the wildlife. There have been several animals that have been deteriorated down to just captivity, and a lot of organizations have worked to putting them back into the wild. Preservation of habitats, such as fighting for the Everglades in Florida or the rainforests, preserving the natural habitats of the endangered animals, and retaining endangered species populations. There have been many movements to remove them off of the red list, which is the national list that has all the endangered species on it.